My name is David. For most of my life, the stars were everything to me. I wasn't just someone who checked their horoscope for fun. I built my career around astrology. I studied every chart, every alignment, and every little clue the cosmos could offer. To me, the universe wasn't just vast and beautiful. It was a guide. I believed the stars held answers to life's biggest questions: who we are, why things happen, and what our futures hold. I started my career as a typical skeptic, not of astrology, of course, but of anything outside the framework I trusted. Religion? I figured it was just a man-made way to explain things people didn't understand. God? That idea felt too simplistic. For me, the stars were enough. They were mathematical, predictable, and, in my mind, divine in their own way. After years of studying and refining my craft, I became one of the most sought-after astrologists in the country. Celebrities, CEOs, even politicians would reach out to me looking for guidance. "What do the stars say about my future?" they'd ask, and I'd give them answers. Answers they believed, and, truthfully, answers I believed too. But there was one client in particular who changed everything for me. She was someone big, someone whose name you'd instantly recognize if I told you. She reached out for a personal reading, asking for insight about a critical decision in her life. The stakes were high, and she wanted the perfect timing. I was determined to give her the most precise reading I'd ever done. I spent hours poring over her charts, tracking every alignment, every transit, every retrograde. My office was a mess. Papers scattered everywhere, books piled on my desk, and my computer glowing with celestial maps. I remember thinking how incredible it was that the movements of stars and planets millions of miles away could hold the key to someone's destiny. But that night, something felt off. I'd been pushing myself too hard, staying up late, skipping meals, drinking way too much coffee. My chest had been feeling tight for a couple of days, but I brushed it off as stress. I told myself, just get through this one forecast, and you can rest later. The moment came when I was piecing everything together: her birth chart, the planetary alignments, the lunar phases. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen, feeling like I was on the verge of unlocking something profound. And then, out of nowhere, it hit me. At first, it was just a sharp pain in my chest, like someone had punched me. I froze, trying to breathe, but the pain only grew worse. It felt like my heart was being squeezed in a vice. My hands started shaking, and I couldn't focus. The words on my screen blurred, and suddenly I wasn't in control anymore. I remember trying to stand up, thinking I could shake it off. but my legs buckled beneath me. My vision darkened at the edges, and a strange, cold numbness crept over my body. For a split second, I thought, is this it? Is this how it ends? But even then, I couldn't help but think about how the stars should have warned me. There should have been a sign, right? The next thing I knew, I was on the floor, my face pressed against the cool wood, and everything went black. It was over. Or at least, that's what I thought. What happened next is something I never could have predicted. Something no chart, no alignment, no star in the sky could have prepared me for. When I opened my eyes, or at least I thought I opened my eyes, everything was different. I wasn't lying on the floor of my office anymore. I wasn't anywhere that made sense. At first, it felt like I was floating, weightless, in a vast, endless space. The sensation was strange, like I had shed the heaviness of my body. It wasn't just physical weight I had lost. It was everything. Stress, fear, even time itself. I could feel myself existing, but not in the way I had always understood. It was as if I were pure awareness, free to move, but with no need to. Below me, I could see my body sprawled on the floor of my office. My head was tilted to the side, my arms stretched out toward the desk. It was unsettling to see myself from that perspective, like watching someone else entirely. There I was, David the Astrologist, collapsed and lifeless. For a moment, I felt an odd detachment, as if it didn't really matter. Then it hit me. That's me. I'm looking at myself. Panic set in quickly. Am I dead? The thought raced through my mind. I tried to shout, to move, to do something. But nothing happened. My body, if I could even call it that, wasn't responding the way it used to. I didn't have hands or feet, no voice to cry out with. Yet I was still me, still thinking, still feeling. As I hovered there, I noticed how quiet everything was. There was no sound, no hum of electronics, no distant noise from the street outside, just silence. It wasn't peaceful, though. It was eerie, the kind of quiet that makes you hyper-aware of yourself. I watched as the scene below me unfolded. I could see my office, the cluttered desk, the glowing monitor, the books stacked high on every surface. It all felt so unimportant. For years, I had poured my heart into that room, believing it was where I found meaning. And now, looking at it from this strange new perspective, it seemed almost laughable. I don't know how long I stayed there, suspended above the scene. Time didn't seem to work the same way. A minute could have passed, or an hour. What I do remember is the moment everything shifted. At first, I noticed tiny specks of light appearing around me. They started as pinpricks, like distant stars, but they grew brighter and closer with each passing moment. I couldn't tell if I was moving toward them or if they were coming to me. It was as if the entire universe was rearranging itself, drawing me into its depths. The lights began to swirl, forming patterns I couldn't quite grasp. They weren't random, though. There was a rhythm to them, a sense of purpose. They pulsed with energy, vibrant and alive. For someone who had spent their entire life studying the stars, it was breathtaking. This was beyond anything I had ever imagined. As I watched, the patterns grew more complex. Stars and galaxies seemed to weave together, creating a vast cosmic tapestry. The colors were indescribable, not just reds and blues, but shades I had no name for, each one glowing with an intensity that felt almost alive. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the universe in its purest form. This is what I've been searching for. It felt like I was finally seeing the truth, the thing astrology had only hinted at. But then, something strange happened. The more I focused on the lights, the less they seemed like stars. They moved too deliberately, too purposefully. It was as if they were aware of me, responding to my thoughts and emotions. I felt a sense of connection, like I was being pulled into something much larger than myself. The fear I had felt earlier began to fade, replaced by a deep curiosity. I reached out, or at least I thought I did, and as I did, the lights seemed to welcome me. They wrapped around me, their energy flowing through me in waves. It wasn't painful or overwhelming. It was comforting, almost like an embrace. In that moment, I felt more alive than I ever had in my physical body. The energy around me wasn't just light. It was knowledge, understanding. I could feel it filling me, showing me things I had never considered. It wasn't words or images, exactly. It was more like a flood of awareness, a sudden understanding of the universe and my place within it. I began to see glimpses of my own life, moments I hadn't thought about in years. They weren't just memories. They were experiences played out with perfect clarity. I saw myself as a child, lying in the grass and staring up at the stars for the first time. I saw the moment I decided to dedicate my life to astrology, and then I saw the countless people I had guided over the years, their faces clear as day. But there was something else, too. Something I couldn't quite grasp. It was as if the universe was trying to tell me something, to show me a truth I wasn't ready to understand. I felt a deep sense of urgency, like I was on the verge of discovering something that would change everything. Just as the thought crossed my mind, the lights around me began to shift again. They stretched and twisted, forming a tunnel of sorts. At the far end, I could see a brilliant light, so bright it should have been blinding, but instead it felt warm and inviting. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to move toward the light to see what lay beyond, but another part of me was afraid. What if it meant leaving everything behind? What if there was no going back? Before I could decide, the tunnel seemed to pull me in. The light grew brighter, and I felt myself being carried forward, faster than I thought possible. The colors around me blurred, and the sensation was overwhelming, like I was being stretched and compressed at the same time. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. I was no longer floating in space or moving through the tunnel. I was somewhere entirely new, somewhere that would change my life forever. I found myself standing, or at least it felt like standing, in a place I couldn't describe. It wasn't space, and it wasn't Earth. It was somewhere else. Everything around me glowed softly, as if the very air was alive. There was no ground, no horizon, just the endless light stretching in every direction. Despite its vastness, it felt intimate, as though the space itself was aware of me. Before I could process what was happening, I sensed someone or something approaching. It wasn't a person in the traditional sense. There was no distinct face or body, but there was a presence, unmistakably real and overwhelming. It radiated warmth and understanding, yet its very existence seemed to hum with authority. I wanted to speak, to ask what was going on, but the words wouldn't come. Somehow, I didn't need to. The presence already knew. "You have questions," it said, though it didn't speak in words. The voice was in my mind, clear and unmistakable. Am I dead? I thought. The answer came almost instantly, calm and matter of fact. Not yet, but you are here for a reason. I didn't know what that meant, but before I could ask, the presence began to change. It shifted into a form I recognized, a figure cloaked in shimmering starlight, its body moving like the constellations I'd spent my entire life studying. It was mesmerizing, like the universe itself had come alive. "You look like the stars," I thought, my mind racing. "It is how you see me," the presence replied. "You have spent your life searching for meaning in the stars, but what you seek is not found there." The words hit me like a thunderclap. I felt a mix of confusion, disbelief, and defensiveness. "What do you mean?" "The stars guide us." They've guided me my whole life. I've helped people, made predictions. Everything points to their power. There was no anger in the presence's response, only patience. The stars are part of the design, yes, but they do not hold the power you believe they do. They do not control destiny. I shook my head. Or maybe I just felt like I did. That's not true. The alignments, the transits, they mean something. I've seen it. I've felt it. You're telling me everything I've done, everything I've believed is meaningless? The presence didn't react to my outburst. It simply waited for the storm of my thoughts to settle before speaking again. What you have done is not meaningless. You sought truth in the only way you knew how. But you misunderstood the purpose of what you studied. The stars are not the source. They are a reflection. A reflection of what? I asked. My voice, if I even had one, quiet and uncertain now. Of the Creator, of the design. They are a sign of beauty, of order. But they are not what you think they are. They cannot dictate your choices. They cannot determine your fate. They were never meant to. The words hung in the air, or maybe in my mind, like a weight I couldn't ignore. My instincts told me to argue, to defend the beliefs I'd built my entire life around. But there was something undeniable about the presence's words. They didn't feel like an opinion or a perspective. They felt like truth, solid and unyielding. I don't understand, I admitted finally. If the stars don't guide us, then what's the point? Why do they align the way they do? Why do people feel like their lives are tied to them? The presence seemed to shift closer, though it hadn't moved. You see patterns because you were designed to seek meaning. The stars were placed in the heavens to remind you of the Creator's hand, of the vastness of the universe, and your place within it. But they were never meant to replace the Creator. I struggled to process what I was hearing. So everything I've studied, everything I've taught, it's all wrong? Not wrong, the presence said gently, but incomplete. You looked to the stars for answers, when the answers were always within you. The stars reflect the order of the universe, but they do not govern it. They do not govern you. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. I'd spent my entire life searching for meaning in the movements of celestial bodies, believing they held the key to understanding life. But now, faced with this presence and the undeniable truth it carried, I felt small, not insignificant, but humbled. I wanted to resist, to push back against what I was hearing, but I couldn't. Deep down, I knew the presence was right. The stars I'd worshipped, in my own way, were just a part of something far greater, something I had never fully acknowledged. Then what does control our fate? I asked, my thoughts quieter now, more open. You were given free will, the presence replied. The choices you make shape your path. The Creator's hand is always present, but you are not bound by the movements of the stars. You are more than you realize. The words filled me with a strange mix of emotions, relief, sadness, and an overwhelming sense of awe. I had spent so much time looking outward, searching for meaning in the heavens, and yet the answer was so much simpler, so much closer. I was silent for what felt like a long time, trying to absorb the enormity of what I'd just been told. The presence didn't rush me. It simply waited, patient and unchanging. Finally, I asked the question that had been lingering in the back of my mind since the moment I arrived. Why are you telling me this? Why now? The presence's form shimmered, the starlight within it glowing brighter. Because it is time for you to see the truth. What you do with it is up to you. But you cannot return unchanged. Before I could respond, the light around me began to shift again. The presence faded into the glow, and the warmth I had felt started to pull away. I wasn't ready for it to end. I still had so many questions, but the choice wasn't mine. The world around me began to blur, and I felt myself being drawn towards something new, something I couldn't yet understand. The light enveloped me completely, and suddenly, I wasn't just in a place, I was part of it. It felt as though I had stepped into the fabric of the universe itself. The presence was no longer beside me, but its voice, its essence, remained, guiding me through what came next. The first thing I saw was light, not a single source, but countless points of it, flickering into existence like stars and being born. Each light expanded outward, connecting with others, creating webs of brilliance that stretched endlessly in all directions. It wasn't chaotic, though. Every connection, every movement had a purpose, like it was all part of a master plan. This is how it began, the presence said, its voice clear in my mind. This is the moment the universe was spoken into existence. I watched, awestruck, as the lights continued to expand, forming galaxies, stars, planets. The vastness of it all was staggering. I had spent my life trying to understand the stars, but seeing them like this made me realize how small my understanding truly was. These weren't just celestial bodies. They were the physical manifestation of something far greater than I could comprehend. As the scene unfolded, the presence spoke again. Each light, each star, was placed with intention. But their purpose was never to control. They were created to inspire, to remind humanity of the vastness of the Creator's love and the beauty of the design. I struggled to grasp what I was seeing and hearing. But what about the patterns? The alignments? They can't be meaningless. People feel them. They see the effects in their lives. The presence responded gently, yet firmly. The patterns exist because humans were designed to seek meaning. But the meaning is not in the stars themselves. The stars are like a painting, a reflection of the artist's vision. You were never meant to worship the painting, but to see the artist behind it. The realization hit me like a blow. All my years of work, all the hours I'd spent studying charts and predicting outcomes, it wasn't meaningless, but it wasn't what I thought it was either. The stars I had revered were never meant to dictate lives. I had spent decades giving people answers I believed were true, but now I could see how incomplete those answers had been. As if sensing my thoughts, the presence showed me something new. I saw faces, dozens, maybe hundreds. They were my clients, the people I had guided over the years. I saw their expressions as they sat across from me, hanging on to my words as if they were gospel. I saw the decisions they made based on my readings, relationships started or ended, risks taken or avoided. And then I saw something else. Moments I couldn't have known about. I saw the doubt in their faces after they'd left my office. The uncertainty as life didn't unfold exactly as I'd predicted. I saw the pain of those who had placed their trust in the stars and felt betrayed when things didn't go as planned. The weight of it was unbearable. I never wanted to mislead anyone, I thought, the words coming out like a desperate plea. I thought I was helping them. The presence didn't judge me. Instead, it showed me something even harder to face, myself. I saw my younger self, full of excitement and certainty, diving headfirst into the study of astrology. I saw the moments when I had ignored doubts, when I had brushed aside questions that didn't fit my worldview. I saw how I had clung to astrology because it gave me a sense of control in a chaotic world. You sought truth, the presence said, its tone both comforting and convicting. But you stopped looking when you found something that felt safe. The stars were never meant to replace the Creator. They are a signpost, not the destination. Tears streamed down my face, or at least it felt like they did. I wasn't sure if I even had a body here, but the emotions were real. I had spent so much of my life searching for meaning, believing I had found it, only to realize now how much I had missed. Then what is the purpose? I asked, my voice barely a whisper in my mind. If it's not the stars, then what are we supposed to follow? The presence didn't answer with words this time. Instead, it showed me something else. people. Not just individuals, but humanity as a whole. I saw acts of kindness, moments of love, sacrifices made for the sake of others. I saw parents caring for their children, strangers helping strangers, communities coming together in times of need. This, the presence said, is the purpose. Love, free will, faith. These are the forces that shape your lives, not the movements of the stars. You were created to choose, to love, to trust, not to be bound by celestial patterns. I felt the weight of those words settle deep within me. For so long, I had believed in a universe that operated like clockwork, where everything was predetermined by the alignment of planets and stars. But now, I could see the beauty of something far greater. A universe where we are free to create, to connect, to choose our own paths. It was liberating, but it was also heartbreaking. I thought of all the people I had misled, all the times I had put my faith in something incomplete. I had spent my life devoted to a system that could never offer the answers I was truly seeking. The presence spoke again, cutting through my thoughts. Your journey is not over. What you have learned here is not meant to be a burden, but a gift. You have been given the chance to see the truth. Now, it is up to you to decide what to do with it. I stood there, or floated, or existed, watching as the vision began to fade. The light of the stars dimmed, and the faces of the people I had seen melted into the glow around me. I was left with a deep, aching sense of both loss and possibility. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't go back to the way things were. I gasped awake, my lungs burning as if I'd been holding my breath for hours. My chest ached, and I was drenched in sweat. I was back in my office, lying on the floor, the glow of my computer monitor casting faint shadows on the walls. For a moment, I thought it might have been a dream, some bizarre hallucination brought on by stress or exhaustion. But deep down, I knew better. Everything felt different. My body was the same, my surroundings unchanged, but my mind couldn't stop replaying what I had seen, what I had been told. The stars, the patterns, the alignments, they weren't what I thought they were. I tried to sit up, clutching my chest, and looked around at the piles of charts and books that had been my life's work. They felt alien to me now, meaningless in a way that made my stomach twist. I sat there for a long time, staring at the mess around me, trying to make sense of it all. What was I supposed to do now? Everything I had built, my reputation, my career, was based on something I could no longer believe in. But how could I walk away from it? How could I face the people who trusted me, who depended on me? The next few days were a blur. I couldn't bring myself to work, to touch the charts, or even look at my computer. Every time I tried, I felt a deep sense of unease, like I was betraying something sacred. I kept replaying the words of the presence, the images of the universe's creation, the truth I had been shown. It wasn't just a shift in perspective. It was a complete upheaval of everything I thought I knew. I tried to explain it to myself, to put it into terms I could understand. Maybe it was just a near-death experience, I thought. Maybe my brain had conjured all of it in a desperate attempt to make sense of dying. But the more I tried to rationalize it, the more I realized that nothing about it felt like a hallucination. It was too vivid, too coherent, too real. Eventually, I decided I couldn't keep it to myself. I had to talk to someone, to share what I had experienced. But who could I tell? My clients? My colleagues? They wouldn't understand. They'd think I had lost my mind. I started small, confiding in a close friend who had been a skeptic of astrology for as long as I'd known them. At first, they listened patiently, nodding along as I described what had happened. But when I got to the part about the presence, about the stars being a reflection rather than a source, they couldn't hide their skepticism. "David, I don't know what to say," they said, their tone careful but dismissive. "It sounds like you had a really intense experience, but you can't seriously believe it's real, right? I mean, it was probably just your brain playing tricks on you." Their words stung, even though I knew they weren't trying to hurt me. "It was real," I insisted. "I can't explain how, but it was. I've never felt anything like it before. It was like the truth was being shown to me, not just something I came up with on my own." They sighed, clearly uncomfortable. "Look, I get that it felt real to you, but you've spent your whole life studying the stars. Maybe your mind just used that to make sense of what was happening to you. It doesn't mean you have to throw everything away." That last part stuck with me. Throw everything away. Was that what I was doing? Turning my back on the work I dedicated my life to? Or was I finally seeing it for what it really was? I decided to reach out to one of my clients next. Someone I trusted. Someone who had been coming to me for years. They were a believer in astrology, even more so than I had been. If anyone would understand, I thought, it would be them. When I told them, their reaction was difficult. "Wait," they said, frowning. "You're telling me the stars don't actually guide us? That everything you've been doing all these years doesn't mean anything? No, I said quickly, trying to explain. It's not that it doesn't mean anything. It's not what we thought it was. The stars are part of the design, but they don't control us. They're not what we should be looking to for answers. They shook their head, clearly frustrated. Then what's the point? Why have I been coming to you? Why have I been making decisions based on what you've told me? I didn't have a good answer. I thought I was helping. I said quietly, I really believed in it, just like you did. But I've realized there's more to it than the stars. There's something bigger, something more important. They didn't say much after that. When they left, I wasn't sure if I'd ever hear from them again. The pattern repeated itself over the next few weeks. Every time I tried to explain what I had experienced, I was met with skepticism, confusion, or outright disbelief. Some people thought I was crazy. Others thought I was betraying them. A few tried to convince me to snap out of it and get back to work. Through it all, I felt like I was standing on a cliff, caught between two worlds. On one side was the life I had always known, the charts, the predictions, the belief in celestial influence. On the other was the truth I had been shown, the reality that the stars were not the answer I had always believed them to be. It was exhausting, trying to reconcile the two. I felt like I was losing my identity, like the person I had been for so long was slipping away, but at the same time, I couldn't go back. The things I had seen, the truths I had learned, they were too profound to ignore. I started spending more time alone, reflecting on everything that had happened. I reread old books, not just about astrology, but about philosophy, faith, and the nature of the universe. I began to see connections I had missed before, hints of the truth that had always been there, just out of reach. It wasn't easy, but slowly I began to accept that my life would never be the same. I didn't have all the answers yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't keep living the way I had before. Something had to change. In time, the chaos in my mind began to settle. The experience I'd had, the truths I'd learned, they weren't meant to destroy me. They were meant to transform me. I started to see that my purpose wasn't to abandon everything I had ever known, but to reframe it, to use my past as a bridge to help others find what I had found. I began to shift the focus of my work. Instead of offering predictions and forecasts, I started talking to people about their lives in a different way. I listened more, asked questions that got to the heart of what they were feeling, what they were struggling with. It wasn't about charts or transits anymore. It was about connection, about helping people see the choices and possibilities they already had. At first, it was difficult. Some clients were confused, even angry, when I told them I wouldn't be doing traditional readings anymore. But others surprised me. They were open to the change, curious about what I had to say. Slowly, word began to spread that my work had taken on a new depth, a new focus. One conversation, in particular, stands out to me. A woman came to me seeking guidance about a major life decision. She was anxious, searching for certainty, hoping the stars would give her a clear answer. Instead of pulling out a chart, I told her about what I had seen. I described the vision of the universe's creation, how every star, every galaxy had been placed with intention, not to control us, but to inspire us. I told her about the presence I had encountered, how it had shown me that the most powerful forces in life are love, free will, and faith. At first, she seemed hesitant, unsure of where I was going. But then I shared the moment that had changed me forever. The moment the presence revealed the truth about the stars. The stars are beautiful, I told her, but they don't have the power to determine your life. That power is yours. You were created with the ability to choose, to love, to trust. That's what shapes your path, not the alignment of planets, but the decisions you make every day. Her expression softened, and for the first time, I saw the tension in her face begin to ease. "So what should I do?" she asked. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace as I answered. "That's the beauty of it. You get to decide. Trust your instincts, your values, the things that matter most to you. The stars can remind us of the beauty and order of the universe, but they were never meant to replace the wisdom you already carry within you." As she left, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Fulfillment. I wasn't giving people answers anymore. I was helping them find their own. Over time, I started to share more of what I had seen, not just with clients, but with anyone who would listen. I spoke about the vision of humanity, the acts of love and kindness that showed me what life is truly about. But I also shared the warning I had been shown. In the vision, I had seen moments of great pain and division, times when humanity lost sight of what truly mattered. The presence had shown me how easily we can be misled, how quickly we can turn away from love and toward fear, greed, and conflict. The universe is vast, I would tell people, but our place in it is small. What we do here matters more than we realize. Every choice we make, every act of kindness or cruelty, ripples outward in ways we can't see. We have the power to create incredible beauty or unimaginable destruction. The choice is always ours. It wasn't an easy message to share. Some people rejected it outright. unwilling to let go of the idea that their lives were controlled by forces beyond their control. But others listened. And every now and then, I'd see a spark of understanding in someone's eyes, a moment when they began to see the truth for themselves. Even now, I don't claim to have all the answers. What I experienced was humbling in ways I still struggle to put into words. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: we are not powerless. The stars, the universe, the Creator, they all point us towards something greater, something that lies within each of us. The Presence's final words to me still echo in my mind. You cannot return unchanged. They were right. I can't go back to the way things were, and I wouldn't want to. There's so much more to discover, so much more to understand about who we are and why we're here. And maybe, just maybe, what I've seen is only the beginning.